You have very certainly been familiar with the Rosetta Stone. What exactly is it, despite the fact that it is one of the most well-known artifacts in the British Museum? Take a more in-depth look. Before we continue to this video, hit that subscribe button for more. Can you tell me about the Rosetta Stone? One of the most well-known artifacts housed in the British Museum is called the Rosetta Stone. What exactly is it though? The stone is a shattered piece that formerly belonged to a larger stone slab. It bears a message that is carved into it, and that message is written in 3 different scripts. It was a crucial piece of evidence that enabled scientists to decipher the Egyptian hieroglyphs, which were a kind of writing that represented concepts through images. Why is it necessary to do so? The king, Ptolemy V, ruled from 204 to 181 BC, and the inscription on the stone is an official communication, sometimes known as an edict, regarding the sovereign. The decree was recorded on massive stone slabs known as stelae, and these stelae were placed in each and every temple that existed in Egypt. It is stated that the king had the backing of the priests who served at a temple located in Memphis, which is located in Egypt. Due to the fact that it is one of these copies, the Rosetta Stone does not hold a particularly significant status on its own. The important thing for us is that the decree is written in 3 different scripts: hieroglyphs, suitable for a priestly decree; demotic, the cursive Egyptian script used for daily purposes, meaning language of the people; and ancient Greek, the language of the administration. The rulers of Egypt at this point were Greco-Macedonian after Alexander the Great's conquests. The hieroglyphic version is suitable for a priestly decree. A fragmented and unfinished version of the Rosetta Stone was discovered. It contains 14 lines of hieroglyphic script, which reads as follows: Hieroglyphs, including a cartouche bearing the name Ptolemy, seen up close and personal. A closer look at the hieroglyphs, including a cartouche that has the name Ptolemy, inscribed in the traditional Egyptian direction, along with an honorific. This is of tremendous significance to the study of Egyptology. When it was first found, nobody could read the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs since nobody had ever learned how. The Rosetta Stone proved a useful key to decoding the hieroglyphs since the inscriptions say the same thing in 3 distinct scripts, and because researchers could still read ancient Greek. When was it actually discovered? Between the years 1798 and 1801. Napoleon Bonaparte led military campaigns in Egypt with the goal of establishing dominance in the East Mediterranean and posing a threat to the British hold on India. These campaigns took place in Egypt. The tale that the stone was found by mistake by troops in Napoleon's army is the one that is most often believed, despite the fact that accounts of the stone's discovery in July 1799 are now relatively hazy. On July 15, 1799, as they were digging the foundations of an extension to a fort near the town of Rashid, Rosetta, in the Nile Delta, they came across the Rosetta Stone. It seems to have been constructed into an extremely old wall. Pierre-François Bouchard, 1771–1822, who was the officer in charge at the time, understood the significance of the discovery. In accordance with the conditions of the Treaty of Alexandria, 1801, which was signed after Napoleon's defeat, the stone, along with any other antiquities that the French had unearthed, was transferred to the ownership of the British. The stone was transported to England and arrived in February of 1802, where it was placed at Portsmouth. In the foreground, there are women standing on a bank, while in the background, there are houses and boats on the river. The city of Rosetta around about the same period as the discovery of the Rosetta Stone. Etching with aquatint and hand coloring, attributed to Luigi Mayer and created by Thomas Milton between 1801 and 1803. Who was the one to decipher the code? As soon as the 4th century AD came to an end, the ability to read and write hieroglyphs vanished along with their use. This was because hieroglyphs had become obsolete. Scholars were able to read the inscriptions on this stone by using the Greek that was written on it as the key. This occurred in the early years of the 19th century. An English physicist by the name of Thomas Young, 1773–1829, who was one of the first to show that some of the hieroglyphs on the Rosetta Stone wrote the sounds of a royal name, Ptolemy's. The phrase "some of the hieroglyphs on the Rosetta Stone wrote the sounds of a royal name." It was then that the French scholar Jean-François Champollion, 1790–1832, came to the conclusion that hieroglyphs recorded the sound of the Egyptian language. Because of this, Our knowledge of the language and culture of ancient Egypt is built on a solid foundation. When Champollion recognized the hieroglyphs that were employed to write the names of non-Egyptian monarchs, he made a significant contribution to our understanding of the writing system utilized in ancient Egypt. On September 27, 1822, he presented a paper at the Académie des inscriptions et belles lettres in Paris, where he proclaimed his discovery. This revelation had been founded on an investigation of the Rosetta Stone as well as other literature. His English adversary Thomas Young, who was also attempting to translate Egyptian hieroglyphs, was a member of the audience. Amon Ami Dubois is written in alphabetic hieroglyphs on the copy of the published work that Champollion gave to his friend Dubois. Then, Champollion made a second significant discovery when he realized that the alphabetic signs were not just employed for foreign names, but also for Egyptian names. This was an important step forward. This, in conjunction with his understanding of the Coptic language, which was descended from ancient Egyptian, gave him the ability to begin reading hieroglyphic inscriptions in their entirety. A letter dated February 10, 1818 and written by Thomas Young, in which he requests that William Banks look for these specimens of hieroglyphic writing while he is in Egypt. The interpretations he offers for these categories are, for the most part, accurate, yet he was unable to decipher how the signs communicated their meaning. What exactly does the inscription have written on it? The Rosetta Stone contains an inscription that is an edict that was made by a council of priests. On the first anniversary of his coronation, which took place in 196 BC, this document is one of a series that affirmed the royal cult of the 13-year-old Ptolemy V. The complete translation is available for reading here. The inscription on the stone said that a copy of the proclamation should be deposited in each significant temple located across Egypt. This obligation was to be fulfilled. It is not known if this actually took place. Nevertheless, duplicates of the same decree that is written in 3 scripts and is bilingual have recently been discovered and can be shown in different museums. Therefore, the Rosetta Stone is one of many stelae that were mass-produced and aimed to broadly distribute an agreement that was issued by a council of priests in the year 196 BC. In point of fact, the inscription carved into the stone is a replica of a prototype that was written roughly a century earlier, in the 3rd century BC. This original text was discovered in Egypt. The only things that were altered were the date and the names. After being brought over to England in February of 1802, King George III gave the stone to the British Museum in July of that same year. Because the floors of the museum were not sturdy enough to support the weight of the Rosetta Stone and other sculptures, they were temporarily housed in temporary constructions on the grounds of the museum. Following an appeal to Parliament for financial support, the trustees initiated construction of a new gallery to store the newly acquired items. Since 1802, with the exception of a brief period during World War I, the Rosetta Stone has been on display in the British Museum. In 1917, towards the end of the First World War, when the museum was concerned about heavy bombing in London, they relocated it to safety together with other movable, essential pieces. This was done in conjunction with other objects. The historically significant item was housed for the subsequent 2 years in a station on the Postal Tube Railway located 50 feet below the surface of the ground in Holborn. This is it for today's video. Comment down below your favorite part of the video and subscribe to our channel for more.